Hey, welcome to hashtag Youth for Peace, declaring a new international agenda. I'm Jess, your host for today from Search for Common Ground, and we have a very exciting discussion planned today. For the first gathering of its kind, youth-led organizations, non-government organizations, governments, UN agencies will come together to agree on a common vision and roadmap to partner with young people in preventing conflict, countering violent extremism, and building lasting peace. So this is all happening at the Global Forum on Youth, Peace, and Security, the 21st and the 22nd. The Global Forum is hosted by the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan under the patronage of the Crown Prince and co-organized by the UN Interagency of Network and Youth Development, the Office of the UN Envoy of Youth, Peacebuilding Support Office, UNFPA, UNDP, in partnership with Search for Common Ground, and United Network of Young Peacebuilders. So I know that's a mouthful. 11,000 youth have applied, and 157 were selected from close to 100 different countries. The forum also includes over 20 foreign ministers, journalists from all over the world. So this is a massive event, people. And you can find out more information at www.youth4peace4.info. So we have with us today one of the lead facilitators of the event, Meg, with UNOY, and just all things to do with peace building. So give them a little wave, Meg.
Hi.
We also have Rashid from Ghana is joining us, a local peace building leader, and Youssef, representing Norway, who does a lot of work surrounding radicalism and extremist groups. So welcome, participants. And our third most important participant is you. So we want to know what you think. We want to hear your questions. So click on the Q&A if you're in Gmail, type in your question and comments, and we'll be able to see them and answer them. Also, there'll be a Twitter chat surrounding this conversation happening now. Just use the hashtag Youth4Peace. You'll also see a whole bunch of awesome I Declare pictures popping up there, which we'll talk about later. But thanks for joining us. I'm gonna stop talking now, and we're gonna move on to the important stuff. So, first things first, Meg. So the title of this forum is the Global Forum of Youth, Peace, and Security. Why the youth?
Well, basically, there's lots of reasons. I won't talk about the population bit, but there's lots of us. But also, there's this growing understanding that right now, with the rise of extremist and terrorist groups, like we always hear on media that young people are like the most vulnerable groups. But what we want to show here is the power of young people on the other side of the fence, like what young people are doing to foster peace, what young people are doing to improve their societies at the local, regional, and international levels. And what we want is to showcase the positive contributions of young people in the field of peace building. I think this is somehow sometimes overlooked, and this is why we want to do this. We want to bring together people, and as you mentioned, there will be 157 young people from almost 100 countries. But that's really just a very little representation of really the vast number of young people that are doing many great things around the world. So that's one reason. Another reason is the fact that it's an imperative to involve young people. Young people are a very important part of society, and they should be involved in every aspect of decision making, especially when it comes to peace and security issues. We are not just beneficiaries, we are not just victims, we are definitely not just the perpetrators of violence, but we are active actors in promoting peace and security. So, yeah.
Well said. Thank you. Thank you, Meg. And why? Let's pass this off to Rashid. What unique perspective do you think that youth can bring to the table when it comes to peace and security?
Thank you very much. I believe that young people, can you hear me?
Yes, I
Yes?
can hear you great.
I believe young people can bring a lot to the table. First of all, they bring a youthful exuberance. They bring the passion aspect of it. They also bring local content because most of the time they are perceived to be perpetrators as well as troublemakers. So once they are involved in it, I mean, they bring much more than being just there. They bring useful exuberance as well as being part of a global movement of. I mean, they are the biggest population, or in terms of when it comes to the population, right? So being part of the processes is very, very important and very inclusive because you cannot exclude young people whilst you're talking about peace because most of the time they are the ones that picks up the gun. They are the ones that are in the forefront of trouble or like perpetrators or also as a victim. So it's very, very important to include young people.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you for that. So piggybacking off that statement, so about youth being possibly perpetrators or troublemakers, Youssef, we know that you do a lot of work around radicalism. How can we better empower marginalized groups of youth?
Well, we see that youth that are at risk, they are usually very creative. They have a lot to bring, but they are doing it in the wrong groups. So basically what we are doing in our work is that we try to pick them up, talk to them, and show them that there is a different way. They can use the same level of creativity in a job, at school, and doing the same as we do. And actually, I've been there myself. I've been a radical extremist. And now I know how it is. I know how it feels to not see a future, to like feel like you're in the darkness, alone, grasping for a place to belong. So what we basically do is that we target these at-risk youth, and we try to help them to show them that there are different ways to go. And we do so with pretty good success as well.
That's awesome. So, Youssef, I know you have a really cool story. I would love if you would share a little bit about your experience with extremist groups and how you were approached, if you were approached.
Yeah, sure. It actually started in 2009 for me when I converted to Islam. I got rejected by my parents. I lost my friends, and on the bus I was called a traitor, a terrorist, extremist, and basically the people that supported me and that was around me turned their backs on me. And I talked about this in the mosque because the Muslims were very interested in why I made that choice. So I first told the positive side, and then I told the negative side. And the first person coming over to me was this radical leader in Norway, and he gave me a hug and he said, "Now you got a new friend. I will be there for you." So basically that was my way in. So it can be that easy, and that proves that it's really this human things. It's not like you're born a monster or you become a monster. You are just at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Thank you so much for sharing, Youssef, and would love to get some more personal experiences because I feel that you just sharing your experience like you have is already brought in people's perspective, and it's a necessary perspective. Rashid, would you care to share any how conflict has affected you or your community that you've seen? Oh no, we lost Rashid. Okay, Meg, go back over to you. So how have you seen, is this a common occurrence that you hear with marginalized youth? Is this something that you hear a lot? And how have you seen conflict affecting youth in other ways?
Well, I come from the Philippines where there has been a long-standing conflict. And maybe what I would do is I'd like to focus actually on like my positive experiences of working with the young people who are actually really doing cross how do I say this, like cross communication with actually the rebel groups themselves, to try to foster this communication and say, hey, we need to stop this fighting, we need to stop this, because at one point they were like victims as well of this conflict, and they got sick and tired of being just on the other side of the fence, and they said, okay, this has to stop, but we need to do something about it. And so what I would like to share is actually back home in the Philippines, there's this organization called Generation Peace Youth Network, and it's a network of both Muslim and Christian organizations who have been working together and actually back channeling information from one group to another, saying, hey, we really need this to stop. And this is, I think, one perfect example of what young people can do to help to foster a peace process and to help improve things when sometimes things at the negotiating table or at the, you know, the higher level, political level, might be on stalemate and not working. But there are people who are working on the ground and really trying to cultivate this culture of trust and this culture of, hey, if we really just stop this, like just very simple kind of common sense, you know, like if we stop fighting between these communities, we will be able to have better opportunities. We will be able to live not worrying when the next bomb will explode. And so, yeah.
Thank you, Meg. I think that's such an important turn of conversation. If you're just joining us now, we're talking about the Global Forum of Youth Peace and Security that's coming up, and some of the important parts about that and the role youth can play in peace building. Youssef shared a really great story, personal story himself, of how he was approached, and now I'd also like to give Youssef an opportunity to talk a little bit about the work that he's now doing. Oh, and really quick before you go, sorry, Youssef, I want to make sure you guys all know that to use the Q&A box if you have questions, and also be tweeting online using hashtag Youth for Peace. So Youssef, please, would love to hear about your work and the positive change you're making.
Yeah, what we basically see with the youth we are working with is that they have struggled. I mean, they haven't woken up one day and told themselves that I want to be an extremist. It's like a process, and it's a long process. Very often it started when they was very young with the parents, maybe not being there, maybe not doing a good enough job. They have struggled at school. Some of them have done drugs and other types of crime. So when we meet these young men, mostly, it's not the first place they stop. But what they usually say is that they have tried to talk to people, but people are afraid of them. They don't want to hear them out. So we are actually the first persons who actually see them as something else, as a criminal or something like that. So that's basically the first step. And then we see that they have a lot of problems usually. I mean, with the police, with the parents, and a lot of other stuff. So the first thing we do is that we organize that for them. We see what is their strengths, what is their weaknesses, and most important of all, what are their dreams? What are they dreaming about? And most of them have really dreams that are possible to fulfill. I mean, they just want a job. They want to do anything. So basically, using that as a carrot to help them solve their problems. That's basically the job that we do. And we also see that most of the youth they are approached in person. So none of those we are working with have been radicalized online. So it's from person to person. So that is also quite important, I believe. So it's all about seeing the human being, not seeing the extremist, not seeing the rebel kid, not seeing the terrorists. Just see them as humans who can do good as well as bad, and help them to do good and empower them and give them a voice.
That's fantastic. So giving them the voice, and that's something that we're hoping to do in this forum. So I know in this forum we're hoping to come out with a declaration that talks about what you're talking about, that talks about the future, and and the role that youth could play in that future. Meg, do you have any thoughts of what could be included? I know part of the forum is to create this, but do you have any thoughts about what would be in this declaration?
Yeah, well, actually, this declaration has been an ongoing work, and a lot of young people have already participated in the crafting of this declaration. So people who are listening, if you're not aware, it's called the Amman Declaration on Youth, Peace and Security. And it presents the young people's vision and roadmap towards a strengthened policy framework in support of the role of young people in transforming conflicts and preventing violent extremism. This declaration has been like a work in progress, and I've been involved for weeks in like different consultations that has happened through Skype, and I really thank those who have participated both in the written consultations and also in the Skype focus group discussions. And it's basically it puts together different recommendations and different ideas of young people on how to strengthen policy framework in terms of young people's role in peace building. And months following the forum, this declaration will also be used to engage high-level decision makers to discuss and adopt it. So
awesome. Thanks for that, Meg. Do you have any examples of ways that things that are in the declaration that would help youth be more involved?
Yes. If I remember correctly, I'll try to pull up the draft that we have. But if I remember correctly, in one of the discussions, one important thing that was mentioned was really increased spaces for youth participation in decision making, and this is really very broad. Also considering that the declaration is supposed to represent young people from all over the world, and we know that it is contextually very different from one country to another, from one region to another. And part of this declaration is really looking into that, how to contextualize and adapt these spaces for decision making, and really to push for decision makers and governments, for example, to give this space to young people so that young people can participate in peace building processes and have this space to have their voices heard. One very specific example as well, which is related to this one, is that in negotiations, for example, there was a mention about not just putting men, not just putting women, but also putting young people in the table to speak and to voice out different opinions and ideas that from the perspective of young people.
Awesome, thank you. And why do you think that young people aren't included more in these kind of talks?
Well, I think there's many reasons, and from my work as I've been working in the field of peace and conflict in the last 9 years, in my experience, one thing is that, this idea of considering young people as like they're just playing around, or they're very idealistic, they really don't know what they're talking about, they have not been there yet. And all these notions are kind of putting young people in a box. But not all young people are like just these people who are like noisy and talk about things that they don't know about. Because that's the thing, without this recognition of the power of young people, and without this recognition of the real things that young peace builders are doing, so it goes hand in hand. And I think this is what this forum is all about, and what this Amman declaration also will try to push, is we'll try to push for like getting all the facts out there, and for really like decision makers to see that, okay, there's no generalization of young people as just, talking out loud without doing anything, like all talk, no work. And I think that's really very important for us also to see what has been done and the real power that young people are bringing into the table when it comes to peace, discussions on peace and security.
Great, thank you, Meg. We have a couple of questions from Twitter, but before we get to that, Rashid, I'm glad you're back. I know internet keeps dropping in and out, so welcome back. And I want to give you a chance to talk about the change that you've seen young people making in your community around peace.
Yeah, thank you very much. And sorry, I went, obviously the internet keep going on and off. Yeah, I think basically young people are doing great jobs. Traveling around the West African sub-region, like in Liberia and Sierra Leone, there are young people who are taking the mantle to build the reconciliation in their community, like from post-conflict countries like Sierra Leone and Liberia. There are a lot of young organizations who are doing great jobs. Like talk of the Youth Crime Watch of Liberia, who are, they took the bull by its horn during the Ebola crisis. They were not only doing peace work, but they were also doing health-related issues, and then sensitizing people about the effect of the Ebola crisis, and also trying to build entrepreneurship centers around Liberia, trying to get young people gainfully employed, so that they can contribute meaningfully to the societies. There are also a lot of youth organizations in Sierra Leone who are also, getting involved in post-conflict reconstruction of their countries, in Guinea as well as Guinea-Bissau, as well as in just neighboring country of Cote d'Ivoire. There are also young people who are also much involved in the national dialogue when it comes to the recent conflict that happened over there. Also in northern Ghana, there are a lot of young organizations who are always on the table pushing the politicians to ratify peace treaties, the chieftaincy tribal dispute that's going on there. There are young people who are taking active part in the discussion and also about peace building and reconciliation in those communities. So I think young people are doing marvelous work around the world, and also we can do it all by ourselves, but we also need the politicians as well to be on our side. And as young people, we cannot also work in vacuum. We need the politicians as well. We can always say, oh, they are older than us, and then we don't need them, but we need to include them in our decision making as well if we want to get somewhere else. Yeah.
Absolutely, thank you. So youth doing some great things in West Africa, and I'm glad that you pointed out that we can't work in a vacuum, that we need to be inclusive and all work together. And so great, thank you, Rashid. And we have a question from Twitter, actually. The question is for Youssef. And they want to know if your organization plans to expand its efforts from just Norway to the global level. And they say it's very inspiring.
Well, thank you. I don't really think my organization, Just Unity, is going to expand globally, but what we do is that we are having a lot of partners. For instance, we are a member of the Radicalization Awareness Network in the European Parliament. And we also go into forums and conferences internationally to talk about our work and perhaps and hopefully also inspire others. But we see that the work we do with youth, it has to be local, and it's not always necessary that we are the right people to do it either, because you have to have the confidence, you have to have like the relations with the persons you're working with. So I don't really think we can do this globally because it has to be like on a local level. But I really hope that one of the things that will come out of this Amman Declaration and also this forum is that we are getting connected, because it's easy for a small NGO like ours to feel alone and to feel small, and we won't ever be a part of the United Nations or consult much there. But if you have like a regional or a global organization that can be like a leader for all the smaller ones, they can put us in where we are needed, and that is something that we really want to be a part of. But I don't think we will expand globally, because already it's hard to get resources for our work. So I don't see that in the near future, at least.
Yeah, but that's great that you're connecting with other networks and that there's other groups doing this around the world. So that's fantastic. And I also wanted to bring up earlier, we talked about that youth are really concerned with the economy and jobs. And I wanted to see if anyone wanted to speak to that connection between jobs and peace and security. That I think it's a connection that we don't often make, but is definitely plays a role in youth choosing to, join peace efforts or other efforts.
Yeah. I don't know if I could come in with that.
Please.
Yeah, I think basically these are some of the areas that as youth organizations or global, we failed in that aspect. We always try to work in a vacuum, thinking, okay, peace building or de-radicalization and stuff, but we also have to link it up with the unemployment situation, because there are so many young people who they want employment, but because of the situation in their respective countries or unemployment situation in their respective, they are forced to go into certain direction that we don't want them to go. So even if we are talking about peace building, we also need to talk about economic empowerment of young people as a whole, not just talk about the peace building and leave the economy, because they both are interlinked. If you don't address one aspect, it goes to affect the other aspect of it. So we need to link those and then try to address them systematically, not just address one and then leave the other one.
Great, thank you. Youssef?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem we have today is that we see these things as single incidents. It's not. I mean, most of the youth we work with, they don't see a future. They don't feel like they're contributing in any way, and they are looking for that. But it's not necessarily so that getting a job will solve all the problems, because it's not just about the money. It's also about network, having friends. So I think we have to see like the whole situation and the whole person. But definitely jobs are a big part of it, and we see it in our work. In a lot of cases that the youth have tried, that it's not the kind of youth that lay on the couch and are lazy, that they really want to contribute. And when the society can't give them any place to go, they will go to the only group who will accept them, and it's natural. So getting a job is important. And also I think I mean, most of the youth we work with, they have a criminal record, and very often the criminal record are at least twice as long as their CV. So it's not like the person you would expect someone to hire first. But when they see that we really care about them and really think that this can change their lives, we hardly ever get no. And we don't only get them like jobs as in supermarkets. We can get them real good jobs as well, because people see that we care about them, and they see that these are youth that really can contribute, but they haven't been given the chance. So I think it's important to see that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go for it. Meg, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, just very quickly, just to reiterate what Youssef has said about like singling out this issue of unemployment and education in relation to peace. Sustainable peace really has a lot to do with security, and we're not just talking about hard security, but human security. And when we think about human security, is when a person feels secure of his or her environment, and when a person like feels that he or she is growing and developing. And sustainable peace has a lot to do with economic development. And we all know that people's economic isolation, political disillusionment, social unrest, all these are like all related. And it's really important for that it hinders social cohesion, and for young people, especially young people's ability to participate in peace building, to engage in peace processes and peace initiatives, because they kind of like think sometimes, okay, we don't have a job. First of all, it's our priority to have a job, and then we participate in nation building. But then also that's the other thing. They all work hand in hand. It's not about isolating one thing, because they're all related. And I think that's very important to address, especially the root causes. We have heard, and I don't know, maybe Youssef, this is like one of the main things, you know, this feeling of lack of belongingness and lack of opportunities of young people that also leads them to go the other route. And this is really very important to be addressed, especially when we look at root causes of why people participate or not participate. And it's actually in the fourth priority of the Yaman Declaration on young people's socio-economic empowerment. And in this fourth priority, the action points are really calling for national governments to prioritize employment opportunities for young people, because developing the human capital and the potential of young people to be doing something relevant for society is also about developing the potential of these young people to build peace and to work for social cohesion and transformation.
Wonderful. You guys are so great. You're inspiring me already. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to get out and do something. So for youth here that want advice on how to get more involved in peace and security, do you guys have any recommendations?
I need to think.
Yeah, well, I think I have one
There's
remark.
many, that's why.
Go ahead, Youssef.
Yeah, I think I have one remark, and that is a lot of the youth we are talking to, they are a bit self-destructive. They feel like they have done so much wrong in their lives that there are no way back. They have like passed the line of no return, and that's a hard place to be. So basically, it's also to use stories of radical extremists or criminals or whatever that have turned around and gone back and prove that it's actually possible. And human beings are very tolerant, and you get a second chance if you want it. And that's also very important to address, that it's always a chance to turn around. You can never pass any lines. You can always turn around, and you can always make your life better. And I think that's important as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Youssef. That's so important. And I also want to say to anyone listening, there's still time and ways to participate in this declaration and the Global Forum on youth, peace, and security. So I don't know if you've seen it going around. Youssef's actual picture, if you can see it, on his page is the I Declare. So the I Declare campaign is going on right now. If you want your voice heard and you can't make it to Jordan, take a picture, write what you declare on your hand. It can also be on a sign, and post it to Twitter using hashtag Youth4Peace. Do this. We'll be sharing these pictures around at the forum, so you will be there digitally, even if you can't be there in person. So please join in, have your voice heard. Also, the forum will be streaming live, and we'll also be sharing Twitter. We'll be taking Twitter into account as well at the forum. So if you're following it live, if you're using the hashtag, join the discussion, because your voice is very important and it needs to be heard. So I think we're going to start wrapping up, but I definitely want to hear just a few more things. So from Rashid first. If you could tell the UN Security Council, so if you're standing before them and you had one thing that you want them to know, what would that be?
I have a whole list.
Okay, it could be a couple things. I'll let that slide.
First of all, work with young people, work for young people, empower young people to be the change that you want to see. Secondly, I'll ask them to go ahead and ratify the UN security push, and also as well as give us the fund to do the peace building work on the ground for them.
Awesome, great. Meg, anything to add?
Believe in young people. I think I remember 2 years ago I was invited to like a high-level panel, and I shared a speech, and in my speech where there were like in the panel no young people, it was a UNESCO event, and I strongly said in my speech that, hey, don't call us the future, because we're not the future. We're here now. And we have a stake, we have a say, and we want to work for the present. So don't call us, especially the UN. Don't call us the future. We are the present. And I think it's just this believe in what young people are doing, what young people can do, and give us this power as well. I think it's really very important.
Fantastic. Youssef, we'll give you the last word. If you could tell the Security Council anything, what would it be?
It would be to give the youth a voice. Very often when you're invited to these kind of conferences, you have like one youth day and one day for the decision makers and maybe 5 minutes of interaction. And I think we have to like mix those days together, because the decision makers need to hear our voice and we need to learn how the system works as well. So I think intergeneration and make your voice heard. Everyone has something to say, and say it, contribute.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank the three of you for being online with us today. I think I can speak for all of us, where you guys are walking the talk of actually being change makers in your community and globally, and people are listening because what you're saying is incredible. So thank you to the three of you for being you. And thank you for all the audience members that are watching right now. Like I said, please continue to talk and participate. This doesn't end here. The conversation lives on Twitter. So hashtag Youth for Peace. Use it. I declare it. Let's see, there's a question coming up right now. There's a question. This is a very specific question. So before we completely end this, I don't want to discount our Q&A question, and let's see if anyone has an answer to this. But how will the new international agenda on youth, will it include the goal number 16 on peace security of post-2015 development agenda? I don't know what the goal number 16 is. Does anybody know? Okay. Early, who wrote this comment, I see it, and we'll check it out and check on Twitter for answers. We're going to see what this number 16, that make sure that it's included. Yeah, the new Millennium Goals. Yeah, we'll make sure it's included in there. And thank you for your voice, and continue to push the conversation on Twitter. So again, hashtag Youth for Peace, I declare, and live streaming the 21st and the 22nd of August, just around the corner next week. So thank you guys for tuning in, and hope to see you on Twitter. Thanks.